This is Jim with Harvest Harmonics, and I want to welcome you once again to the Profitable Farmer. Thank you so much for joining us. And today's episode is really special because I'm going to share with you the most important factor for profitability. Okay, this is not just profitability for farming, but it's profitability for any business. But as a farmer, I'm sure with all the challenges that we all have, with all the inflating costs and fertilizer costs and water costs and all these other regulations and all these other things, labor issues, all these other factors that are hurting your bottom line as a business, I'm sure this is going to be very, very important for you to hear. Now, the number one cause, the number one factor in terms of profitability is not pesticides. Okay, it is not fertilizer cost. It is not yield increases. It's not seed costs. It's not equipment costs. It's not even labor. So I bet you're probably wondering now, well, if it's not any of these things, then what could be so important that's more important than all these other factors of profitability? Well, the most important thing is time. Okay. Now, that may not be immediately the first thing you think of when in terms of what factors affect profitability, but I can guarantee you that time is probably the number one factor. Well, let me give you a reason why. Let me share with you why this is so important. Because time is the most costly thing that you can ever add to your business. Okay, you worried about fertilizer costs going up 30%, 50%, 100%, 200%, 300%. And you're looking at your costs now and you're thinking to yourself, well, geez, Jim, my cost of urea and nitrogen a year ago was $300 a ton. Now it's 1,000 a ton, or 1,500 a ton, or $2,000 a ton, right? So how can you tell me that time is more important than that? Well, time affects everything. It affects all aspects of your business, from the input side to the production side to the transport side, the selling of your product, all that stuff. Time is a factor in all this stuff. Now, if you think about it, I'm going to give you a couple analogies here that I'm going to go into and delve into how this is important for. But can you imagine, let's say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right, when Bitcoin was first released, right? And it was released, and each Bitcoin, each of those little virtual coins that they had, right, cost about $20 for one coin. You're saying, okay, I'm going to give you $20 in cash for this coin, this little virtual coin, this set of numbers, right? And it's supposed to be valuable, right? Now, how many of you guys right now, here in 2022, would hop in, if given the opportunity, would hop in a time machine and go back to 2010 when Bitcoin was first around and it was $20 a coin, and buy as many of those Bitcoins as you possibly could, right? And of course you would, because now the cost of these Bitcoins is, I haven't looked at it recently, it's $25,000 or $30,000 for one coin, right? So if you bought 1,000 coins back when it was only $20 a coin, you invested 20,000, you're now sitting on, what is it? Let's say if you bought 1,000 coins, that'd be worth what, 20 million, something like that, 25, 30 million on an investment of 25 or 30,000. You'd 1,000 times your investment. And the only factor in there really is time, right? If you happen to know that those are going to go up, right? Well, let's take a look at a more practical example, okay, in your farming operation. If you are able to get your product, let's say if you're growing strawberries or something like that, strawberries, blueberries, or any kind of specialty crop, right? If you're able to shorten that production cycle down, right, so that instead of, let's say, taking 2 months to get from planting to where you start producing fruit on those berries, right, you can knock off a week to 2 weeks on that. How much is that? How much time is that? That's 2 weeks of time, but that means you can get to market sooner with your first crop. You're going to make a lot more money, probably twice as much money as you would in the middle of your season, right? So when I talk to berry growers, the first thing they tell me is, I don't really care about getting extra yield because then I just got to pay labor to pick it anyway. But if you can get me that yield a little bit sooner, right, and you can get me that 2 week window sooner, or if you can extend my season out 2 weeks beyond the end of it, then that extra time is going to make me a tremendous amount of money. Let's take a look at labor costs, right? Let's say if you have a particular crop, and I'm going to use a row crop like, let's say, squash or something like that. Let's say you're hand picking it, right? Now the time factor of that is, if you can get twice as much, squash on each plant, then theoretically the pickers are out there, they're going to get twice as much yield. And your labor cost is actually going to go down because you're paying them by the hour. And it doesn't take them that much longer to pick, let's say, 5 squash off of a plant than it would to pick off 3 squash and then go to the next plant and the next plant and the next plant. You're gonna waste a ton of money by adding time to that harvesting process. So increasing your yield per plant is going to be a dramatic improvement in your cost, not just because you're producing more yield, let's say on a per acre basis, but you're also reducing that labor cost because you're taking less time from them to pick the same amount or fill those bushels and fill those boxes, right? Same thing with any kind, even tree fruit, plums, citrus, nuts, all these things, right? If you can maximize your yield on a per plant or per tree basis, then that labor cost is not going to dramatically increase because you're going to have more for them to be picking, even if they're hand picking it, which is not very common, or if you're shaking those trees or otherwise having harvesters, they're going to get more yield out of that same pass and harvesters. And so actually going to make a lot more money, not just because you're getting more yield, more fruits and nuts and that type of stuff, but you're also going to be getting more value for that labor cost. That hour of labor is going to be, let's say, 5 tons of fruit instead of 4.5 tons of fruit, right? But you're getting that extra half a ton in that same hour of labor. So your labor cost didn't increase, right? But your yield dramatically increased, and so did your revenue. Now let's take a look at something like the Kiminasa plant booster. If you've watched our show here on our 4:30 shows on Facebook or on YouTube, you've probably seen me discuss in detail how our system works and the results that we're seeing and all these different results. Now I want to ask you this question. This is where time really, really can bite you in the butt. This is where time can really cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not talking about $1,000 or $100. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, a couple of farmers that I've talked to just in the last month, they're already waited a month, right? They want to talk to their boss and do all that stuff. They waited a month. Now, in an annualized system, they're talking about 15 million flowers. And we're talking about when I increase their yield by 20%, they're talking about a 2-year increase of over $1 million in terms of extra profit. Now, you break down $1 million divided by 2 years, that means each month is costing them about $40,000. So that farmer that I talked to 3.5 weeks ago, and if you're in Ethiopia, I'm not going to say the guy's name, and I'm not going to say his company's name because I don't want him to feel bad. But at the end of the day, he's already lost $40,000 just by waiting 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Can you imagine losing $40,000 just because you waited 1 month? It's real, guys. There's a lot of farms out there who are losing money hand over fist, not because the cost of fertilizer has gone up by 3 times, not because the cost of water has gone up, and not even because the cost of labor has gone up or is hard to find. You guys who are not using the Kiminasa Plant Booster are losing money hand over fist because you're not using the system right now. And I don't want to sugarcoat this because it's important. And I'm saying this to help you guys because I don't want you to wait till next year. I don't want you to wait till 3 months from now or 6 months from now or even a year from now. Even those farms where you have a one-time bloom, like let's say almond trees, they've already bloomed. Cherry trees, they've already bloomed. So in theory, they're not going to get a lot of extra yield this year. They're still losing a lot of money by not using our system right now. Now, why is that? It's because the increase in improvement in health in the soil and in the plant and the vines, the grapevines, is in energizing those trees and energizing those vines and making them healthier, making that soil healthier. And that 6 months or 8 months of time, even if it doesn't translate into yield this year, is going to be the difference next year between getting a crop that could be making them $1 million versus a crop that might only get them $500,000, or a crop that's so much higher quality that they're going to be able to sell their wines that they're making from these grapes for quite a bit more money than they would normally as a table wine, let's say. And I've seen this over and over again. I've seen hundreds of examples. In fact, if you don't believe me, go to our website, and I'll put the link here. Yeah. Share the website link here. It's harvestharmonics.com. It's right here. Just go to our website. Take a look at all of our case studies. I mean, we're looking at case studies where we're improving yields by 20%, 30%, 50%, 70%, even 165% in some cases. I mean, imagine if we doubled your yield. I mean, we have a corn trial, a university corn trial in Colombia, where at a tier 1 university, this is not just some small university, this is a tier 1 university, meaning the highest quality, highest level of university. We just finished up a white paper that showed we doubled, meaning 100% increase. We doubled their yield versus their control plot. We did a test versus control, right? All scientifically measured and everything, right? We doubled the yield over the control. We didn't use any fertilizer. I mean, think about that. We didn't use any fertilizer. Now, I'm not saying you should use no fertilizer, but imagine, just imagine with the cost of fertilizer today, if we could cut your fertilizer cost in half, how much is that going to save you? It's going to save you a ton of money, guys. Believe me, I've talked to enough farmers I know. This is going to save you guys a ton of money just by using this now. And if you guys want to add to that savings in fertilizer and pesticides and other chemicals, increasing your yield by, even if I got half of it, even if I got you 50% increase in yield, you're doing 200 bushel an acre corn right now. Imagine if I got you up to 300 an acre. Imagine if I even got you up to 250 an acre. And I'm improving your soil, I'm reducing your fertilizer needs, and I'm making that labor cost that you're having when you're harvesting and planting pay off maximum dividends. The cost of time is against you. Cost of time is more costly for you than the cost of any of your inputs, including seed, including fertilizer, including pesticides. Because if you wait until these university results are published next year, it takes a while to get through the peer review process. If you wait till that's done, if you wait till all of your neighbors are using our product and you're not, and you wait in a year, 2 years, or whatever, because you just don't like to be first, or you just want to make sure that other people are seeing results before you can try something. Just keep in mind that you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most of the corn guys I talk to, they have hundreds of acres or even thousands of acres. So imagine if I made you an extra $100 an acre over my cost. My product costs a certain amount of money. Imagine if I made you an extra $100 an acre, and you have 1,000 acres. That's $100,000. So if you want to wait till next year, you can wait till next year. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But what it will hurt my feelings is the knowledge that I have that you just lost $100,000 because you didn't take advantage of this. My system is a 100% money back guarantee. There is zero risk on anybody here. We guarantee you're going to make more money with Kiminasi than without. And now is the year. It's 2022. It's April 2022. Most of the corn guys and row crop guys are just planting right now. We're getting started. Now is the time. Use the Kiminasi plant booster, recondition your soil, rebuild the soil, make those plants healthy and productive, and do production the right way, which is in stimulating the health and the photosynthesis and the energy output of these plants naturally. No chemicals, no pesticides, no GMOs, none of that stuff. All you need to do is use the Kiminasi plant booster. It's a very complicated system, and it has a lot of technology behind it. If you looked at our website or you watch some of my shows, you see me break this down step by step and how it works. It's a very complicated technology, okay? But we've made it super easy to use. Even though it's complicated to understand, it's so easy to use. You literally just attach to a pivot or an irrigation system and water your crops, and our system will do the rest. If you don't have irrigation, we have a lot of farmers jumping on board right now that are using our system on sprayers. So if you're able to spray your crops like with a pesticide sprayer, just instead of using pesticide and chemicals or Roundup or whatever you're putting in that sprayer, throw some water in there and spray it with Kiminasi. Our system, which has these little devices, you go from sizes this small to larger devices, and then we have bigger devices than this. But on a sprayer, you can use one of these devices in here. It's a couple $1,000s. It lasts for 2 years, but it can make you hundreds of thousands of dollars. How many of you guys out there have the opportunity? How many of you guys had the opportunity 10 years ago to buy Bitcoin, but you didn't understand it? It was too complicated, didn't make sense, and you could have invested $1,000. You could have just thrown $1,000 at it. You would have had $1 million now 10 years later, 12 years later. Kiminasi Plant Booster, you put $1,000 or a few $1,000s in this investment, which is guaranteed. Bitcoin was never guaranteed. Our system is guaranteed. You will make your money back. What if that $1,000 investment or $5,000 investment, or $10,000 investment, whatever it ends up being for your farm, what if that turns into $100,000, $200,000, $500,000? Wouldn't you be really kind of upset if you didn't have the opportunity? If you found out next year that you could have made that $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 this year in 2022, but you chose to wait? The cost of time is the most expensive thing you can possibly have in business. Those guys who wait, and those guys who delay, and those guys who don't take action when the opportunity is in front of them lose a lot more money than those guys who try something new and it doesn't work out. In our case, trying something new and it doesn't work out means I have to give your money back. I haven't had to give a farmer their money back ever, and I never will. Our system works. It's 100% foolproof. You're going to have a much better farm. And the only thing you need to do is jump on this opportunity. The most important cost, the most expensive cost is time. If you wait till next month, like this flower guy did, he lost $40,000. If he waits another month before he calls me back, that's $80,000. That's more than his salary probably for this farm manager. I don't know how much he's making, and that's not my business. But imagine $80,000. You can pay a farm manager or an agronomist or a consultant for an entire year, maybe multiple years, with that cost. And there are farms that are making that much money in a month. There's farms that are making a lot more money than that every month. So if you wait 2 weeks, a month, a year, this is tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars that you are not making that you should make. You guys work your butts off. It's time. It's time for every farmer in America who's watching this to start taking advantage of opportunities and use this technology. Start seeing the results and the benefit, and start putting money in your pocket for a change. God knows there's enough people in the governments and labor and everything else. There's money flowing out of your pockets at rampant rates here. It's about time you start keeping some of that money in your pocket and putting more of it in your pocket, because you guys work hard and you deserve it. You guys are the backbone of our society. It's important that you guys are successful. It's also important for us that you're producing high quality, good, nutritious food for everybody, because we need a lot of that with all these different diseases right now also. So take my challenge, use the Kimanasi Plant Booster this year. Give me a call, and I'll give you the phone number here. Give me a call at 727-324-6750. You can also email us at service@harvestharmonics.com for our customer service. Or as I mentioned, you can go to our website at harvestharmonics.com and fill out a request for a quote form. Give us some simple information about your farm and let us build a system that's going to work for you. It's very, very expensive if you don't use it. It's a lot more expensive not to use our system than it is to jump on board with our system. We have the future of farming today. And those guys who take advantage of it are going to have a tremendous competitive advantage and put a lot more money in your pocket. And given these times, isn't it about time you put some money in your pocket for a change? I hope you take advantage of this. I hope you jump on this opportunity while you have it, because our system, like everything else, is not going to stay where it's at for long. Inflation and everything else affects everybody, including us. We want to help as many farmers as we can this year. So jump on board, 727-324-6750. Hope to hear from you soon, and I hope to make you part of the future of farming.